What if Gyomei Himejima trained Tanjiro Kamado? Tanjiro's initial reliance on the gentler water breathing would quickly be superseded by the Stone Hashira's rigorous spiritual methods. Gyomei, who embodies physical strength and deep focus, would first force Tanjiro to abandon his hesitation, forging unparalleled mental fortitude. Tanjiro would gain monstrous physical conditioning, mastering immense, precise strength far earlier than in the original story. The fusion of Tanjiro's powerful sense of smell and Gyomei's stone breathing would create a slayer of devastating power and spiritual clarity, likely leading to an accelerated mastery of the Hinokami Kagura with lethal efficiency. I've come up with 3 theories to explore this point. Stick around as we dive right in. Now, for our first theory, let's imagine that Tanjiro is fresh off the Kamado slaughter. Wandering around in the forest, he finds himself in a tight situation with his newly demon-made sister. He then meets a Hashira on his way, but the one he meets isn't Tomioka. It's none other than the Stone Hashira Gyomei Himejima. Gyomei would find compassion in the eyes of these siblings and would spare them, taking them in and training them instead of referring them to another person. Stone breathing requires strength, and this would demand rigorous exercise, unlike the mental training of water breathing. Now, Tanjiro would still remain at the same power level theoretically, but the only difference would be that he wouldn't be using a normal Nichirin. Let's give him a battle axe. Similar to the Hashira training arc, Tanjiro would face gruesome exercises that would push him beyond his limit and make him bounce back stronger. Tanjiro would be selected for the final session, reclaiming the victory cup. As usual, Tanjiro would awaken the Hinokami Kagura, and they would be on the same level. Tanjiro's behavior will trigger violence. He would become aggressive in battles and training. We can say that Tanjiro still carries out Tamayo's mission, and the major change would be that Tanjiro would always have constant training with Gyomei. Their bond would become stronger, and their traits would rub off on each other. At the Hashira training arc, Tanjiro would ace through. He would come up with workout schemes, and he'd push his fellow slayers to the absolute limit. Then comes the Infinity Castle. We can assume how things turn out as usual. You remember Zenitsu defeats Kaigaku, and Akaza gets defeated. The slayers meet Muzan, the strongest and biggest of them all. He was weakened by Tamayo's drug, and it will be difficult to fight the slayers. There will be a battle with Tanjiro and Gyomei, combining their stone-breathing abilities in a bid to take down the Demon King. After a long and gruesome battle, it would end in victory for the Demon Slayers. Now that was just the first of our 3 theories. I mean, what if Tanjiro plunged into a darker path, or he creates a whole new breathing style? Don't click off just yet, because we've got 2 more theories locked in for you. So let's jump right in. Let's spice things up in our second theory, maybe give it a darker storyline. We have to be a bit out of the box for this particular theory and assume that Nezuko fully undergoes her transformation and Tanjiro is forced to kill her. As her blood trickles down his hands, all he could feel was the rush of hatred breeding inside him. Tanjiro's lifeless body would be found by Gyomei. Gyu would rush him back to the mountain and would confront the Hashira and Ubuyashiki on what to do with the boy he found. Tanjiro wakes up, and all they can see in his eyes is agony, hatred, and despair. They would proffer a solution for Tanjiro, which is spiritual rehabilitation under Gyomei. Tanjiro opens up to Gyomei about Muzan's attack. Tanjiro is recommended to become a demon slayer, and he'll be signed up for the final selection, which he passes with ease. Now, we can imagine if Tanjiro spent time training with Gyomei, he'd have an edge over Inosuke and Zenitsu. This implies that Tanjiro has more experience on the battlefield, though I still don't think he would be strong enough to save Rengoku. Now, back to Gyomei, Tanjiro would take him as a friend, and more than just a mentor. The rest would go on pretty much as we know it, but then Tanjiro would start to change as time goes by. He becomes more ferocious to demons, and doesn't even show sympathy after dealing with them, like he just came off his family's slaughter. Taking it back to the Infinity Castle, Tanjiro would obviously be paired with Gyu, and would work in harmony to defeat Akaza as the story unfolds. But something feels off. Tanjiro no longer enjoys killing demons. Along the halls of the castle, he begins to question himself on what killing actually is, and if it makes him different from Muzan himself. As the final showdown breaks out, the surviving demon slayers go head-to-head against Muzan and fight to the death. After a long battle with Muzan's body destroyed, he manifests a piece of himself inside of Tanjiro. He questions all that has happened in his life, guilt-tripping Tanjiro into joining his side slowly. Tanjiro roars, screaming, and flings his lashes about. He seems to be unstoppable. But then his own master comes to hold him down and reminds him of who he is, what he's fighting for, and his legacy as a slayer. Tanjiro would find all that's left in him and fight against the Demon King. Tanjiro then sees his final trigger, his family's embrace, telling him to push forward and win. Tanjiro gives it one last struggle and breaks free from Muzan's clutches. Though Gyomei dies from his injuries, Tanjiro would thank him deeply for his help, laying his master to rest in a peaceful conclusion of an era. Now for our last theory, let's create something new. Let's say Gyomei meets with his siblings in the wilderness, and just like in the first theory, he takes them in and nurtures them under his wing. He partakes in training Tanjiro into a fine demon slayer, and maintaining his sister's spiritual peace, so they can be strong enough to stand by him in defeating the Demon King. If Gyomei moves a rock, Tanjiro would move a boulder, and if Gyomei topples a hut, Tanjiro would topple a whole house. At the beginner level, Tanjiro showed signs of being Gyomei's successor, which would make Gyomei push Tanjiro even harder, as he would see Tanjiro as the one to carry his legacy and all he stands for. Now we can imagine that Tanjiro, also wielding a battle axe, is about 10 times stronger than we know him to be, as Tanjiro can easily defeat demons in his way with minimal injuries. Though at Mount Naragumo, things would absolutely explode. The fights in this arc would play out the same. The only fight that would change the events of this timeline forever is the fight against Rui, the 5th lower moon of Muzan's army. Even though Tanjiro is able to go up against Rui, he'd still be bested by his cheap web attacks, and will be forced to awaken the Hinokami Kagura. But this time it's different. Tanjiro isn't controlling just fire, he controls stone breathing. Sun breathing techniques instantly become more Molten abilities, making his own Molten breathing. As Rui cannot believe his eyes, Tanjiro names his first ability, Phoenix Pillars, instantly decapitating Rui like it's nothing. When Gyu arrives, he meets an exhausted Tanjiro and a decapitated lower moon. Gyu would be shocked at the sight he sees before him, taking Tanjiro and his sister in for questioning. Gyomei was secretly helping them, and would face a mild warning, more like a slap on the wrist. Though the Kamado siblings are pardoned, they're sent to stay and train with the Stone Hashira. Now that Tanjiro has created his own form with an implant of sun breathing, called Molten breathing, Tanjiro would be an immensely strong slayer, even rivaling the Hashira. Moving on to the Mugen train, Tanjiro is stronger now, and he can effortlessly keep up with Akaza. With time, Tanjiro begins to unlock more forms of his Molten breathing, making him overpowered, as he now can use 3 breathing techniques. Let's also keep in mind that Tanjiro has heightened stamina and can utilize sun breathing continuously without burning out, due to the immense physical training with Gyomei. Muzan, who observes all of this, begins to fear Tanjiro deeply, and sees him as the modern embodiment of Yoriichi. Now, breaking into our final arc, the Infinity Castle, this overpowered Tanjiro easily defeats Akaza with the help of Gyu, speeding up the process of defeating the Upper Moons. As they show down against Muzan, all surviving Slayers charge in with all they've got, and the Demon King fights with the fear of one named Kamado Tanjiro. After a long battle, Muzan's PTSD instantly comes back to chop him into pieces, just like an old friend did. Tanjiro would be able to save so many people in this timeline. Thanks to the hard work with Gyomei and his invention of the new breathing style, Tanjiro fought for the freedom and preserved generations to come. Tanjiro is honored for centuries as the divine blade that saved everyone from devils, ending the tale in a classic happily ever after. And there you have it, 3 theories to see how things could have played out if Gyomei trained Tanjiro. Got some thoughts you'd love to share? Or maybe you think I could have added some kind of detail to any of the theories here? Let me know in the comments. If you like this video, don't hesitate to click on the next cool video that's appearing on your screen. Go ahead, click it!